Hey there, Patty Dominguez, episode 37 of the Positioning to Profit podcast. Today's episode with Tanya Somerton, who is known all over the world as the divorce angel. She is obsessed with helping clients chart a course through the complex process of divorce and embracing a new life. And in this episode, we talked about that transition, how she found her niche, and really what is working for her in her business. I mean, imagine that, helping people through divorce, having gone through it herself, and finding massive light at the end of that tunnel. This is a very special episode. I hope you enjoy it, and here we go. Hey there, I'm Patty Dominguez. You're about to discover what it means to position your brand and your business to stand out. This show explores the stories of small business owners just like you who are bringing their message out to the world and impacting their tribe. So if you want to take your business to a category of one status, then hang with me because this podcast shares everything you need to know about how to be more prolific with your brand so that you can have more profits. All right, Tanya, thank you so much for being on the Positioning to Profit podcast. I am so happy to have you here. And before we jumped on the show, I was just in admiration of just how much you have in place. And we were talking about how you've got it together, girl. Congratulations for that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thanks. Sometimes I don't feel like I have it together, but it's happy listening to someone else that sort of you seem to have it together. So if you're telling me that, I really appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah. Oh no, it's my pleasure. So I guess for context, what I always start out a question so that people can get grounded in what it is that you do, and hopefully the messages resonate with them. What gap do you fill in the market?
So the gap I feel is I'm primarily a divorce strategist. So I am really, the divorce industry is a mess, and people aren't informed or educated on how to go through it. So the gap I feel is after going through a divorce myself, I realized that the system was completely broken. And you know, like when you're a mother and you have a baby, you go to, say, Lamar's class, or you get taught how to breathe and all the rest of it. When we're going through a divorce, there's no one out there at all giving people the tips and the tricks and telling them how to employ the right lawyer or what they need to do. So I come from a project management background and an operations background. And when I was going through my divorce, the questions I was asking the lawyers, they were like, well, where's this woman coming from? Yet I had a really good outcome in my divorce, and I realised it was because I tackled it differently to everyone else. I went in with a plan. I knew what I wanted, and I actually got the lawyers to action it as per my wishes rather than just letting them run with it.
So then you identified really quickly that everything is everywhere. Nobody gives you solid answers. And so it sounds like your wiring is such that you are one to, out of chaos, put things in an order that makes sense. And how did you feel in that moment where you're like, are you serious? There's nobody that is doing this in this kind of way? Or how did you discover that there, in fact, was that need, though?
Well, I remember, I suppose if we go back a little bit, my background was in operations in a very, very volatile environment from a corporate role. And while I was in that corporate role, I had a risk assessment against me by the AFP, which in Australia is the federal police. So I had staff that had Molotov cocktails thrown into their houses, people bashed, and all these sorts of things. So I had people that were after me, that my life was at risk. And one afternoon I was even put on a plane out of the state because there was intel that there was going to be someone after me. And so coming from a place where I was highly aware of my responsibility for my safety, the responsibility for everything that I did, and every decision I made had a consequence, I was always aware that when I was going through my divorce, I'd taken a bit of that and put it into how I was dealing with the lawyers. And I was Googling all the time, best way to get divorced, best strategy, questions to ask lawyers, all these sorts of things. And I could not find, Patty, I swear, I could not find a thing. It was like it was deep, deep, deep down in Google, but But I could not
Wow.
find a thing. And I realized then that because of the secrecy out there, I had to go out and make all of that visible. But during that time as well, I was dealing with a lot of people, heads of industry, heads of state. I worked on the On Airports Act with the federal government at the time. So I was working with a lot of people that were high net worth individuals, and everyone was giving me, oh, my divorce has cost me 100,000, my divorce has cost me 200,000. And I'm just thinking,
Wow.
this is ludicrous. It doesn't need to cost this, but no one had the tools.
That is so fascinating. And so did you, in that discovery process, going through your own divorce and just connecting with other people that were in the same situation, did you, I mean, how quick did you get to the point where you're like, there's a business here?
I pretty well straight away I knew there was a business there because I was searching for it, and the more I was talking to other individuals, they were all saying the same thing. If only there was someone out there that did this, if only someone was out there. And that's why my business is called Divorce Angel, because I remember at the time going, I wish there was just an angel that could help me do this. And because now I put panels of lawyers and financial advisors, accountants, real estate agents, you know, we can help people get jobs, like the whole thing. I have an army of angels around my clients. Like, we just try and do whatever we can to protect them through the process.
So sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay.
I was just going to say, did you kind of come to terms with what it is that your ideal customer, people going through divorce, is this for men and women or just for women? Or
No, so it's strange. So, and I'm sure Americans are the same, but over here in Australia, our men are they've got to portray themselves as big, muscly, Aussie blokes that can do anything and whatever. But the poor guys can't talk about their feelings. Like, they have no one that they can sit down to. They don't want to tell their best mate what they're going through because it sounds like they're whinging. So I find that some of the guys are my best clients. And
wow.
My avatar mostly is business owners. So I have a few different ways of helping clients, but ultimately I really enjoy working with business owners because the cost on a business when you're going through a divorce is unbelievable. But I'm all into amicable divorces. So the idea would be if someone loses their business, then they lose their identity. If they lose their identity, there's all these other consequences along with that. And not just that, they can't support their family. They can't support, their ex or whatever it is. And they're not building up on all the hard work that they've done. And I've got this saying that I have on my board here, and it's, divorce is so much more than going to a lawyer. To me, the legal part is a very small part of the whole process, but no one's bringing it all together. And that's what I'm trying to do.
That is so genius. Yeah. I'm married, and I know some people have gotten a divorce, but everyone immediately goes to the legal aspect of it and look at it in that way as a totality. So it's almost like you have to educate somebody that obviously this isn't anything you're trained for to deal with. And so when that life situation happens, how are you finding that you're connecting the dots with people where they find you and they're like, oh, I didn't know any of this. You know what I mean? Is it you're educating them like, so you're going through a divorce, here's what you got to know, or how are you connecting with people?
So mostly on my podcast. So I have, when I look at the numbers on my podcast, I actually have as many people in America listening to my podcast as I do in Australia. I actually had quite a few emails from some beautiful women over there struggling with the system and what's going on over in America, because you guys, it's so complicated. In every state, there's different laws around how you can get divorced and what that means. So it's important to make sure that, and this is what I'm trying to get across on my podcast, if we can get to some understanding of the responsibility that we take in the breakup of our relationship, what happens is we tackle the legal part of that process much differently. So rather than taking it from a place of venom or hate, if we are able to take our divorce or relationship breakup from a place of ownership, we tackle it much differently. So when we do that, we pick different lawyers. We don't pick aggressive lawyers. We pick people that actually want to get it done so we can move on with our life. So mostly my message is I get out there via the Divorce Angel podcast. I've written a book as well. So 2017, I wrote my first book, The Jelly Bean Jar. And the reason it's called The Jelly Bean Jar, because people say, well, what's a divorce book got to do with the jelly bean jar?
Yeah.
So I myself am a child of divorce as well. And when my mum and dad were getting divorced, my mum had said to me, love is like a jar of jelly beans. And she said, when you first get married, the jar is full of beautiful, overflowing jelly beans. And she said, every time something goes wrong, a jelly bean comes out. What happens if that person that's done the wrong thing doesn't replace the jelly bean at that time, at a particular stage, the jar will become empty. And when the jar's empty, there's no love left and you can't replenish the love. So that
That's
analogy to me, when I was going through my divorce, I remember saying to my ex-husband, there's no more jelly beans in the jar. This is done. Like, that's how I explained it to him because of how mum had said it. And so many people go, oh, I get that. That makes sense.
Totally makes sense. So I feel like with what you do, you have clearly assessed that there's such a huge need in the market. You're almost like this is truly a blue ocean type of situation. Do you find that you have competitors?
This is the interesting thing. From my research, there's no one out there that does what I do. So there's divorce coaches, there's lawyers, there's other people, but because I bring it together as a holistic everything to do with your life, like if we sit down with a client and we can see that what they want for their life, so say they want to keep their house, but they aren't earning enough income. Okay, let's look then. What do we need to do to get you some more income? Do you need to get a new job? Do you need to have your CV updated? Can we get that updated? So it's taking them down, like it's like putting out little crumbs of their life and they pick them up as they go along and they go, right, now I know what I need to do. Because a lot of people don't like that word empowering, but the thing is, when you've been in a relationship, in a lot of cases, you've made joint decisions, and I'm sure you would get this because I'm now remarried, and any decision that we make together because we're a team. But when you go from being a team into an individual, you need to be able to have the strength to make the decisions that will take your life to where you want them to go. Like it's an opportunity to start again, to like that sliding door moment. What could my life actually be, and how can I make that happen? So from my experience, I haven't seen anyone yet that does everything that we do.
And so how are you in terms of the marketing that you're doing? Is it really purposeful? What have you tested out that has been working for you the best?
So that's a great question because like as you said, because it's a blue ocean, because when you do marketing, they say, well, go and look at what your competitors are doing. See what they're doing and how that's operating for them and whatever. I've tried a lot of that sort of stuff and it hasn't worked for me because...
Okay, we're about halfway through with this episode, but I wanted to make sure that you knew about my new Positioning to Profit quiz so that you can discover how to use the key pillars of positioning to give yourself the ultimate edge for your business. It's an assessment, personalized plan of action to overcome these roadblocks that are keeping you from even more profit. So head on over to positioningquiz.com. All right, let's continue with the show.
If I'm honest, they're after a completely different avatar. And so many people think that this is the issue, that when people are going through a divorce, they think they can do it themselves. But like anything, even with us, like we have a business coach. So the reason you have a business coach is to get to where you want to get to quicker. You want to learn from their knowledge and all the rest of it. People go and try and get divorced and they make so many mistakes, and then they'll come back to me later on and say, I'm already up to $60,000. Can you please get involved and help me get this finished? At that stage, it's too late. Like the damage is done. So when it comes to marketing, we're just trialing and erring. The podcast has certainly been a really good way of getting people to like, know, and trust me, because they listen to my message, and I get a lot of people sending emails saying, look, how can you help me? What does this look like? So that's been a really great one. We also do Facebook ads to a downloadable 23 items that everyone must do when they're separating. That also builds up my CRM system, and we continue to market to those people. But we're just going to keep going, and we will crack it, because there's such a need for the business and what I do that I will not give up.
Oh my gosh, there is absolutely a need for it. And I was going to say, I think a lot of the things, because one of the epiphanies that I had as you were talking about this whole thing is that people only see it from a legal standpoint. Have you thought about maybe pairing up? I'm huge on strategic partnerships, pairing up with those lawyers to say, hey, can we have some kind of an education circle or like webinars to kind of help? Because there's so many elements to what it means to get a divorce, things that they don't even know about, that if the lawyer could present it as an additional value-based offering and it becomes some kind of a relationship, affiliate or joint venture, what have you, I think that would be potentially really advantageous, because people don't know what they don't know. And that's really the market that you're working with, right? They think it's only one way, and you're presenting and saying, actually, let me uncover these unwritten rules of what it means to get a divorce, because it's a lot more involved than you even imagine.
Yeah, that's a great point. The interesting thing is I've worked now for probably the last 2 years solidly on lawyers, looking at the best people to have on my panel, the best people to look after my clients, and what does that look like. So many lawyers out there are not interested in moving into the 21st century. They want to stay how they've always been, because that's how they make their money. And, I had one lawyer who has become a very good advocate for my business tell me that her boss told her, every time you go outside and have a coffee, if you go to the toilet, if you're outside having a smoke, not that she smoked, but if you go outside and have a smoke, I want you to come straight back in. And if you think of a client, I want you to charge them for 6-minute increments. So this is how lawyers are taught. This is how they're trained. And this is the biggest issue that we have at the moment is these, and one lawyer called them the dinosaurs that own the big businesses. They're training all the new lawyers that are coming in to do exactly the same thing. What I'm looking for lawyers that do it completely differently, that know that this system is broken, that want to come and work with me because they know that we're doing it a better way. So I'll often say, rather than have one client that is worth 100,000, let's have 10 clients that are worth 10,000. Let's get them done quickly. Let's get them through the process. Let's help them build their life. Yeah. So the joint ventures with the lawyers aren't really working. That's where I've tackled it. But financial advisors, accountants, therapists, they're more of the people that are going, look, you need to give Tanya a call. She's going to help you move through this, or one of her team. We're going to help. She'll help you put some structures in place and some, my program is called 5 Steps to a Seamless Divorce. So it takes people through each of the categories that they've sort of got to go through to be able to come out the other side and really know what they want for their life.
Right. So can you give an example of a client of yours that has gone through your program and like the transformation that they had as a result? Is it just a shortened divorce experience, or like what are the upsides?
So mostly the upsides are that they don't feel alone. So part of the biggest issue if I could give anyone advice, the advice is that don't listen to the people around you. So many people who are going through a divorce will be bombarded with everyone telling them what to do. And it's at that particular stage that they're they're vulnerable, they're at their lowest point, they're weak, and they're looking for the answers, and they start to take on everyone else's suggestions. People will say, oh, look, this lawyer was really good. Go and have a chat to them.
Mm-hmm.
No two divorces are the same, and no two lawyers are right for the same, because our DNA is different, so are the divorces. The lawyers just aren't right. I'm big on making sure that the lawyer that the client goes to is the right person for them. And in a lot of cases, it's got to do with their partner. So what's the psychology of your partner? Does your partner, are they aggressive? Are they narcissistic? Do they want to play nicely? How do we tackle it from a psychological perspective? Will they work better if we go nicely? How is this all going to work? So we have to find the person or the representative that will help, get you through that the best. Because in a lot of cases, we don't know how long a divorce will take, because even with the best intentions of my client, the ex-partner might not want to come to the party. So if they don't want to come to the party, it could take longer than we even thought, because we've got no control, because they're the ones that are, being nasty. They're the ones that still emotionally haven't accepted what's going on. And the person that leaves the relationship is normally 2 years in front of the person that has stayed in the relationship, because they've been thinking about it for 2 years before they've even had the conversation about this relationship's not working, I want to leave. So when you're looking at people at two emotional levels, it will cause a whole lot of problems when it comes to the negotiation.
Right.
So, so the interesting thing is, my clients, I'm giving them that intel. I'm telling them about, have you put yourself in their position? Think about what they're feeling. Okay, so if we push this, this is the pushback that we're going to get. If we talk to them in this way, maybe you might get a little bit further. But you imagine if it's your sister or your girlfriend or your mate down at the pub, they're going to go, oh, let's just get the best lawyer. Let's do this. Let's do that. And it actually makes everything worse.
Yeah, I can imagine. Oh, wow. It's so nuanced, isn't it? Because of the emotional side of it.
Yeah. So like, if I can give you, recently we've had one client, my client spent $10,000 on legal fees, and her ex-husband, $60,000.
Wow.
So that's like, we've had others. We're normally at least, a recent client up in Sydney, 11,000. Her partner her ex-husband, 24,000. So by just putting some strategies in place and some framework, the clients are managing the lawyer, and by managing the lawyer, they're able to cut their costs as well.
That's so brilliant. And so what do you think is perhaps an untapped opportunity in the marketing that you're doing that you haven't explored yet?
Oh, great question. So I just put this down on my 90-day plan. So there's a few things recently, like so if I go back to, if my avatar is business owners, but it's also probably C-level executives and high net worth sort of business owners who don't have the time to go through all the paperwork, that want to get it done, but just, have got other priorities in their life. So I've done some research on some events. So there's a whole lot of HR department, like the HR sort of conferences coming up, and I thought they'd be really great. So I could go and have some chats with some HR managers in massive companies that are looking after staff, and part of their, HR policies or whatever, I don't know if it's like that over in America, but here in Australia, if someone needs a therapist or something like that, the HR department will help them out, because it's a duty of care for your staff. So I thought, well, that's a whole untapped market that I haven't even got into yet, which might be worth starting.
I love that. Yes, absolutely. So that completely makes sense, is who has that group of people that could use what you do. And like from a corporate standpoint, they're thinking of, okay, what services and value can we bring into the business so that productivity is not compromised. So the pitch there is like, help them be more efficient, help your employees be more efficient, because, if 1 out of 2 people are getting a divorce, 50% of that corporate's population needs you. Presumably that's a huge opportunity. I think that's really smart. That's great.
Yeah, well, the other thing is too, so I've got some of my staff doing research on lost productivity. We know here in Australia that for every staff member that leaves, it costs the business $40,000 to re-employ or to replace that staff member.
Yeah.
Now, I would think that probably going through a divorce because they start to lose their edge, people are talking about them around the water cooler, all that sort of stuff. They're not really, they don't have their finger on the pulse. I would suspect that the figures would probably be roughly the same, but we need to get some intel on that. But that sort of stuff goes into the pitch for the HR managers on, this is what it's costing you guys. Your leaders need to be on the ball, and this is how I can help them do that.
I love it. That is so smart, Tanya, for sure. All right. So my last question as we're wrapping up. What do you think a small business owner that is listening to this, or a solopreneur, because that's where you are, but I'm telling you, you have your stuff together. What is like the first 2 things that they can do that would put them in a positioning place so that they have their stuff in order like you have it? Like 2 tips.
I think tip number 1, you must know your avatar. So to have a blanket avatar so that's where I started. So I started with, I want to help everyone that's going through a divorce. I need to go and help. I've now learned that some people just don't want to help themselves. That's where I've now got into the niche of the the C-level executives and the business owners, because I know those people are already got the traits that want to make a difference in their life. So making sure that you work with the person that is really wants to be helped, but not just that will help you build your business. So that would be my first tip. And the second tip that I've learned is I've spent a lot of time, I've done a lot of courses. Like I said to you before we went on air, I built my website myself. I went and did a course and built it myself. Thinking about it now, when I look at time is money, and if I had to do that again, what would I do? If I had my time all over again, I would not have wasted my time on all of these little courses that I've done they've got me where I thought, well, I'm going to save money here and I can spend it over there. I shouldn't have done that. I should have just gone and got someone to really get my message right. I should have got them to build the website. That would be my second tip.
I agree wholeheartedly. Just thinking about the opportunity costs. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Like really acting like an owner, acting like the CEO of your business. Like, would a CEO of a corporation be doing what you're doing? I know that they wouldn't. They have a team, and I totally agree. And I am so guilty of that. When I quit my job in January of 2013, I wanted to do everything, and I burned myself out massively. And I find that that's actually the case, because people think that they're saving money, but they're actually wasting money and wasting time. So not a good thing.
100%. And I think today, with the world that we live in, like, Patty, look at this, like we're having a conversation. We're on the other side of the world. I have one VA who is in Sri Lanka. I have another VA who is a qualified, he's amazing. He's in Mexico, and he writes all of my CRM, like all the emails and stuff like that. Like today, when I came out of my corporate role, I thought it's going to cost me so much to employ people. I've got some best staff there is. I am so lucky to have them on my team, and they're on the other side of the world. Yet, I'm not paying what I would pay them if I had to, go and have a corporate office and that sort of thing. So there's ways and means that we need to think and look differently.
Yeah, it's about being resourceful.
100%.
Yeah, that's awesome. I couldn't agree more. Okay, Tanya, you're so impressive. I'm so excited for you. I know the world is your oyster when it comes to this and the value that you bring the world. How do people get in touch with you if they are interested in partaking in your amazing services and products and the expertise that you have?
Thanks, Patty. So they can always get on and listen to the Divorce Angel podcast. I have a Facebook group which everyone is welcome to come and pop into, which we were building up. So we've only just recently started that. I've actually put something together. with processes and procedures, what I find is when people are going through divorce, they get very, very overwhelmed. So I've actually put together a Trello course with a template of what I give my clients so that they can come in if they want to. They're more than welcome to come and purchase the course and download the Trello board that my clients use. It's got some pretty key information on what they need to put together before they go through a divorce. So what paperwork they need. It's got some other documents that they can use. It's got a copy of my ebook in it, and they can get that as well. So I'll give you the link to that, and you can put in the show notes if that's okay. But I'd love to
Absolutely.
offer that to your clients.
That's excellent. Tanya, thank you so much. That's great. So yes, that'll be in the show notes that you can grab from this episode, as well as the social media handles and how to hear more about Tanya's podcast and everything else she has to offer. Tanya, thank you so much again for being on the Positioning to Profit podcast. We wish you so much success. It's really exciting what you're doing because it is something that is so needed.
Oh, thanks, Patty. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you so much for checking out the Positioning to Profit podcast. If you haven't already done so, please make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new episodes. And also, it would mean the world to me if you would take a quick moment to leave a rating and review on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or your favorite podcast player. It really helps to get the word out about the podcast and, of course, the featured guests. And lastly, please make sure to connect with me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm on all of them, and use hashtag positioning to profit so that I can search you out and connect that way too. All right. Thanks so much. See you next time.